pass from Havili was magic. The shift on for Crotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Sit back, relax, put your belt on, enjoy the show.
Let's move on to the main course, the Brumbies and the Reds. And I have to say, what a great Super Rugby final. I thought it was good that, it went the distance. You right till the final whistle, you didn't know who was going to clutch that game. And yeah, I guess in terms of just some reflections from our comments last week, I think Harry was the only one to tip that the Brumbies to take this one out. So credit to him.
You idiot. He said himself he was doing it to take the piss.
He did. That's very good.
I did justify it. To be fair, I justified the home ground advantage as the tipping point.
Excellent. I think I tipped that Noah Lelesio, if he was back fit, would slot straight back in, and slot straight back in he did, and what a game from him.
Carved up.
And I think if we want to just make ourselves feel better, we also all suggested that Falaufinga might score a driving maul try. But
what an insight!
That's huge.
The bad part about that is my betting account tipped that in the second half, not the first half.
Yeah, same.
Your betting account tipped, not you, but your betting account tipped that. Your alternate persona.
Mate, I'm the faceless guy behind the betting account, all right?
Very good. All right. Well, look, this one, the Brumbies obviously winning 28-23, 3 tries to 2. Who would like to kick us off and with some opening thoughts on the game?
I think Chrissy should do the honours, mate, as the guest.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, really, really closely fought game. I thought the first 10 to 15 minutes was pretty nervous from both teams. Quite a bit of drop ball, and I don't know, just seemed a little bit tentative to play, especially seeing how physical the Reds were last week. But I just felt like both teams really took a little while to grow into the game. But when they did, it really picked up, and obviously the Brums really built a strong lead to start off with. But it was great to see the Reds claw back. Was it within 3 come half time? It's pretty close there with Jock slotting that penalty. So yeah, it was really, really close game. I think the crucial call, and I'm sure we'll dig into it more, was kind of with that about 8 minutes to go, wasn't it? And they had that penalty. They could have taken the 3 or gone to the line. We all said at the time, take the 3. They go to the line. They lose the line out, which was rubbish all night. And that was kind of end of story for the Reds.
Down by 5 points as well, like eight minutes to go. Surely you take those points with a sharp goal kicker, then you just work field position and then give yourself every chance just to win it with a drop goal or a penalty or anything. Like, it just makes sense to me, especially when your line-out sucks.
That's something I chatted to Harry about, I think, beforehand, that when push comes to shove in a game like this, you've got people that have been there and done that in finals a lot more on that Crusaders, in the Brumbies side, but not the same for the Reds as much, and that was just a call that I think, bit them in the bum pretty badly.
I think, what do you guys reckon? I think that's characteristic of a Brad Thorne team. Like, if Brad Thorne had to choose what his team did at that point, I reckon he would have backed the boys to go for the line, go for the killer instinct.
I think if you've got the clearly dominant line out, for sure, back your strength. But
if the roles were reversed, I think that would have been the right call.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Lineout's been struggling. I don't think Brad Thorne's not an idiot.
No.
I don't think he would have done that.
No, I agree.
Well, Jock was kicking it 100% as well. So it's pretty much in front, guaranteed 3 points. You're 3 behind. Work your way down the field and slot another 3. Game over.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
You kick that, and then you just don't get back down there half. You know what I mean? Like, the kick-off, they send you back down to the line.
Okay, imagine you go for the line out and you bomb it.
I know, but at least you went for it. Otherwise, you deprive yourself of the chance to win. I guess that's the counter argument. But
you make that decision, you look like an idiot if it doesn't come off, and you look like a legend if it comes off.
I feel like it's that Batman line, like you either you're the hero or you, like, I don't know, what was it? You do something long enough to see yourself become the villain or something. Chrissy, you're a Batman fan. What's the line?
Yeah, it was something like that, Cargie.
So you live long enough to become the villain.
Is that it? Very good.
Become the villain, yeah.
That's the type of quality content you can expect on this podcast. No, very good. I think, look, if we were doing a too long didn't read summary of this game, it would just be that the Brumbies were just too clinical by the end of the game. And by that, I mean, we've talked about how at the start of this season, that's what we thought. They had the cattle and they're just a composed and clinical team and just execute in their set piece and just remain composed, and how that had kind of faded away a little bit mid-season, had sort of wavered. But certainly we thought the week off would do them the world of good, and it certainly did. They looked composed. They came out, I think my closing remarks last week were that the Reds looked like an unstoppable team riding on sky-high confidence, and that it would be difficult to believe the Brumbies could come out with that same intensity. But if they came out as if they were the defending champions, and they kind of just maintained that composure the whole way through. They didn't look rattled. I think, as Chrissy said, the Reds didn't come out and absolutely thump them with the physicality from the get-go. So, no, the Brumbies certainly proved me wrong and went back to their strengths, really. So,
I'm pretty sure I had a bit of a read of Dan McKellar saying that they tried a bit of a different tactic in that last round game, and so realistically we're sort of holding back, knowing how they were going to play, seeing as they'd already qualified for the final and had a few things up their sleeve in terms of that style of footy they were going to play. So, I mean, that's the way it felt, and we discussed it in recent weeks as well. Is that something that they would have done? It seems like a pretty massive call to actually do that in the season, because you do then, get the Reds buzzing and maybe that can bite you in the bum. But in this instance, the Brumbies held a little bit back until the final, and maybe that's what helped them get over the line.
So, I mentioned last week that I was a bit worried that the Queensland Reds momentum was generated off the fact that they've been stuck in Queensland for the last 5 weeks or whatever it was. I didn't realise, but this is now 10 games in a row away from home that they haven't come up with a win. The closest they came was that draw against the Rebels. They haven't won outside of Queensland forever. I'm not counting the win against the Force because it was still in Queensland against a team on tour against them. So they haven't won out of Queensland out of Queensland since they beat the Sharks in April 2019. So it was always going to be a huge ask for them to travel away and then beat a team that's something like 8 in a row against Aussies at home or something as well. Like the actual numbers were so far against them for the advantage of the home ground for the Brumbies, and the Brumbies were just too clinical. Like, honestly, I think the Reds did really well at the end to make a game of it, but they were lucky to be there at the same time. Like the try that Pataya set up, that should never have happened. It was all off a complete stuff up, and then just having the most X-factor player on the field that kind of brought them back into it. They had no right to be as close as they were with 20 to go.
Yeah, Harry, if we're honest, though, you look through the Reds games, they haven't had that many games away from home since, the match you're talking about, 2019.
10.
They had a couple away this year.
10.
Yeah, it's not that many, realistically. This year was a real messed up year. They had a draw with the Rebels. They lost by 2 points in the last second against the Brumbies. They were thereabouts.
All year. You played all these dumb teams away from home.
Are you sure it was actually 10?
In a row.
They were 4 points down to the Crusaders in New Zealand.
So they lost.
2 points down to the Brumbies. Last time they were there.
Lost.
Well, look, even as a through and through New South Welshman that bleeds blue, why would you want to leave God's country? It's permanent holiday being in Queensland. You know what I mean? I can see how it'd be hard to deliver when you leave the fairer green pastures of sunny Queensland. But look, I'll move us along. We'll come back to some more points on the game and gameplay. It would be a good point here, I think, to look at some of the match stats. So the match stats came down to looking fairly even Steven, I have to say. Possession, exactly that, 51-49%, Brums Reds. It was the territory, which we said was certainly an important part of the Brumbies game and where they would look to push. It ended up being 58 to 42% possession, a little bit more in the first half, 60 to 40. So they really just stuck to their game plan of just, not playing in their half as much as possible. And certainly, whilst like a lot of the stats were fairly even, the penalty count was pretty much bang on as well. 11 conceded by the Brumbies and 12 by the Reds, but every single one of those by the Reds, you really felt like, I'm not sure, every single one, if it wasn't a penalty goal, they chipped off heaps of meters. They sent them way back into their territory.
Banks's kick for touch is, to me, his best asset. Like, he's dead set chewing off 50 meters every single time.
Yeah, no, it is terrifying. But no, otherwise, look, the stats were all really close. 106 to 99 carries. They both had equal shot at it. 400 meters to 329. The Brumbies with more meters. Tackle bust 22 to 23. Offload 7 to 8. The only other separator was line breaks. The Brumbies only had 6. The Reds had 12. So splitting them apart with double the line breaks. But otherwise, and as we said, clinical and composed. The Brumbies were dominant at set piece. So they only lost one. The Reds pinched one of the Brumbies lineouts, but the Brumbies pinched 4 of the Reds, and also took it to them in the scrum. So the Reds only lost 1 scrum, but I think I was giving a big rev up to Taniela Tupou, going to destroy the Brumbies scrum, but nope, they certainly held firm. So yeah, and also it was a yellow card, certainly didn't help that the Reds cause in the second half. I think Harry was bang on in saying, how did they stay in it when they had a yellow card to Daugunu, and then a lot of their best players off the field, Jordan Pataya, Lukan Salakaia-Lotto, Tate McDermott, all going off. You were thinking, what are you doing? This is crazy. But yeah, so those are the match stats. But look, let's have a look at some of the players that...
Before we do that, I thought we could give Chris just a second to think about who he thinks was the fantasy man of the match and how many points he got, because
That's a good question. I have absolutely no idea.
Give him
I
a second.
certainly know it wasn't Daugunu, I'll tell you that much.
Your favourite player, Filippo Daugunu.
Thank God, no, he's not my favourite player. I picked him up out of necessity. I didn't like it.
Surely he should have got some bulk points for that dummy offload that fooled Muirhead and then threw the offload.
First game, didn't he, Daugunu? Like, he made so many errors.
And this is why I'm not crazy for him to have a Wallabies jersey. It's just
You predicted him.
critical moments like that, yellow card in a final. Like I think he's a wonderful player and like should get a cap, but certainly behind Corabetti and not in your first team.
Yep,
yeah.
no, I like it.
Coming back to your question though.
Debating champion Christian Nabung here. Those are some champions tactics.
It's not Tate. It won't be one of those Reds boys. I almost want to guess Muirhead just to spite Cargie, but it's not.
Look, we'll end the podcast right now.
He did have a cracker game, though. I'll tell you what. He had a great game.
And that try, Cargie will take it away from him, but he did a lot of work in that try. Bumped up a few big bodies.
He beat Taniela.
And yeah, exactly. And BPA.
The only person
and
who beats
Daugunu.
Taniela is Taniela, mate. No one beat Taniela.
Muirhead beat Taniela.
I think Cargie, mate, you had some thoughts on that try, didn't you, to Muirhead while we're on that topic?
Well, it is, and it kind of... Look, before we get to that, I'll put Chrissy out of his misery. Tom Banks was our fantasy man of the match.
I was going to guess that.
With 50.
Damn, I should have said that.
Yeah, you should have just stepped up.
I can't believe you took that off him, mate. That's brutal.
But,
You're a bad person, Cargie.
No, with back to that to Muirhead's try. Look, it's going to lead us. It's going to segue us perfectly into talking who was probably not the fantasy man of the match, but the man of the match. Noah Lelezio in the lead up to that try, he drew in 4 defenders, one small fly half, drawing in 4 defenders and making a hell of an offload. I mean, Muirhead basically could have put a blindfold on and walked backwards over. You know what I mean? I don't care that there was, 3 or 4 players or something that he played. Okay, whatever. No, it was all Lelezio, mate.
He stepped and straightened, and the Reds in true Red form had overchased, and that's why 4 defenders hit. It's not like he actually beat so many men that 4 came in. It was the Reds' poor defence that overchased the inside. So you had 2 guys covering the inside step, and you had 2 guys trying to take the first line. They were just defending so hard.
Shooting across.
It's their fault that they had 4 men going in for that tackle. They should have only had 2.
Look, I'm incapable of believing anything other than it was Noah Lalesio's brilliance and Andy Muirhead is still rubbish.
It was great. It was great by Lalesio.
Good choice. Yeah.
Thank you. Look, if Nelson almost scored a try this week, if Nelson scored that try, I would have said even Nelson could have scored that try that Muirhead did.
Oh, mate.
It was kind of similar. I think Nelson tripped up about 2 meters from the line, but that's all right. Look, it's
Cargie, I was going to ask you, do you remember who carried the ball loosely and it was raked out of his arms by Will Miller in the lead up to that Muirhead try?
no, I've forgotten who did
It was
that.
Tupou.
No.
So he not only lost possession of the ball, he then missed the tackle on Muirhead.
Look, you can't
Wow.
can't be disrespecting Super Rugby AU MVP Taniela Tupou. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on to win the Players Player Award as well. Just.
But that stuff right there is why Alan's going to start above him.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
How dare you guys? But no, very good. Speaking of another player who had the ball stripped or just dropped it himself or just optional, Tavita Kurindrani. I will no longer call him the choo-choo. We'll give him one choo perhaps. But look, his first half, he may have given us a little bit of false hope that he had rekindled the choo-choo steam train.
A lot. He looked so good.
He had a
He
great
did.
game.
I think he might have almost led this
Great
game in
first half.
tackle busts. I could be wrong. I think he had 5 tackle busts.
Yeah,
He had 5 tackle busts.
He led it.
And
All the first half because he didn't do anything in the second half.
and that's probably 5 tackle busts for the whole Super Rugby AU season. Got them all this game. So, no, we're kind of amazed with that. You know, that getting left out of the Wallabies squad certainly will, I guess, some players will step up. But no, the second half, he was certainly back to his 2020 poo-poo form. No choo-choo, poo-poo. And
Surely,
he dropped the ball a few times. Just, I'm not sure how he went defensively. We had been talking about how he uncharacteristically
he
let
got
through.
6 from 7.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. But no, certainly it was very quiet in the second half. So
Yeah, I mean, also, Cargie, you can't leave out the biggest Kurindrani news that is out, mate.
We said it last week.
Yeah, but he's signed on the dotted line. He is going to the Force.
Yeah, we said that last week.
He hadn't signed last week, mate.
yes,
He
so
just signed in the last day or two.
Right.
that's it. I don't know. Look, I mean, he wants to get paid, I guess. Twiggy Forrest can pay guaranteed contracts. Smart, maybe. You know what I mean? Great management, player management. I don't know.
I think, mate, when the third choice outside centre is getting picked for the Wallabies squad ahead of you, the writing is on the wall, isn't it?
True.
Oh, I mean, people have different attitudes, right? You can go, I'm still young enough, I'm 29, I can still hold down this spot. Or you can go, I'm going to go elsewhere. Maybe you want to change.
I guess he doesn't like sushi or something because I would have gone to Japan, that's for sure, if I was.
You can't at the moment, mate.
I think you can still if you fly up for the next season. But anyway, back to what we were talking about, the man of the match, Noah Lalesia. How good? Back from injury, 79 minutes he played, 9 runs for 35 metres, 4 tackle busts, 2 offloads, 1 try assist, 5 from 6 goals, including a drop goal. Just how good was he? I mean, I think we talked about him putting himself very much in the mix for a Wallabies jersey. Probably not the starting 10 jersey still, you'd have to think. But, I mean, some punters have said, could it be? So what do we think of him? He was amazing.
Interesting to hear Dan McKellar say that he thought that he was ready for the starting jersey for the Wallabies. And, I was listening to Morgs on the Type 5 from Rugby Ruckus as well. And, he referenced back to when McKellar said, I know there's these young locks coming through that are all looking good in Super Rugby AU, but let's be patient with them and give them a few years to grow. Then he said the opposite for Lalesia. So I thought that was a really good point. You got the backing by Super Rugby AU winning coach, who was arguably going to be the first choice forward coach as well for the team, for the Wallabies. I think that's pretty big, and it probably has to be taken into some serious consideration. But didn't he outshine James O'Connor in this big game as well?
Yeah, and he'd been out of that squad for how long was it? It was a good chunk of time.
6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Weeks at least, yeah.
To come back in the grand final and play like that and be such an influence and a calming influence at times, taking a drop goal, doing things along those lines. He plays like a lot more mature man than a 20-year-old.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Oh, he was so impressive. So impressive. To slot into a final like that and do what he did was, incredible.
All only couldn't work out about it is that he was on the field when they won the game. He might have only got a minute, but it was the winning minute. So,
Look, he has probably got to the point for me now that, I mean, we're the year after a Rugby World Cup. I was thinking maybe he has to work his way in off the bench. But if you have someone outside him like Tamua and you have him leading at 10, I mean, I'd be okay to see it. But what a tough match his first match would be in New Zealand against the All Blacks.
You'd have to think you throw James O'Connor and Tamua to the Wolves there, and just try and make a call. Basically, unless we're up by the 50th or 55th minute, you chuck on the subs. You know what I mean? Just give him 30 minutes against the All Blacks. That's,
I would. I'd give him a run for sure. It's just where
he has that run.
Hey, one other thing that we forgot to talk about on this one, sorry guys, was the injuries. So obviously George Tyre went off with his hip flexor injury. They said grade 2, 3 to 6 weeks to get back, which puts him in significant doubt for both All Blacks tests with the 2 Bledisloes. And just a note quickly on that, he injured himself before taking all the time in the world to throw that backhand flick to set Harry Wilson up. So he still had the presence of mind to make it look so easy to set someone up for a try. Yeah. And then the other one was Lukan Salakaia-Loto, who just got knocked out so badly. It was huge.
Yes. So we'll see if he got knocked into next week or 2 or 3 weeks from now when
he's got some time, thankfully.
Yeah, exactly. We do very badly need him, though. So
we need him.
Let's hope a speedy recovery from LSL.
Well, they've all but confirmed that Rory Arnold's coming back, right?
But not for the Bledisloe, the first 2 Bledisloes.
That's right, yeah.
So that makes it even worse. But if we have Patea out, who do you throw in at 13? We don't have Kurandrani there, so we can't rely on the experience.
You just flip a coin between Hunter Paisami and Lenny Gitau, don't you? Just whoever.
No, mate. Surely you give it to Paisami.
I'm joking, obviously. Calm your farm.
Everyone knows James O'Connor at outside centre.
Could be. It could be Reece Hodge, mate.
Reece Hodge.
No, you got to be good.
Apparently you don't for the Wallabies. He can play wing on the Wallabies.
Actually, shock announcement. Izzy Nasserani is going to be added to the squad, but at outside centre. So
I'd take it for sure.
No, very good. Speaking of another man who surprised us last week, but we've already said was fantasy man of the match, Tom Banks. Wow, he played well this week, didn't he? So I actually thought for a moment that he might not have made the Wallabies squad. So he was really playing to get in there, but no, he did. He's a Wallabies 2020 squad member, but wowzers, he played really well. Just reminding us of some of his better form.
To be fair on it, it's an extended player squad. They've got a few guys to fill similar roles that they've brought into that squad. But yeah, he had a really solid game, and he's had a few good games at the back end of the season after a pretty slow start. He got 50 points with a try, 2 line breaks, 3 turnovers, and an offload. And yeah, as we said before, he has a whopping kick on him, and that's a great thing to see for your 15 as well.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, well, I've done a lot of talking. Nels, do you want to take us through the fantasy stats in this one?
Yep. So we've been through the top 2, Banks and Noah Lolesio with his 49 points. Alan Alatoa, he got 40 points. For the Reds, you had James O'Connor, 46 points. Harry Wilson, 46 as well. Taniela Tupou, 45, and that's after missing a tackle, losing the ball, so he could have been even further up there, potentially man of the match, fantasy man of the match. Angus Blythe, he had a big one and a beautiful haircut, 44.
Yeah, hold on. He didn't have a big one. He just scored that try. That was like another lucky try. But we can't breeze past that haircut, can we?
He actually got 10 points for that haircut.
Yeah, it dead set looked like what you see like the under sevens like kids do for when they go to the grand final, not the person playing the grand final.
No,
Mate,
it looks like they did it to him when he was asleep. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to lie. I love that passion.
Yeah, I loved it too.
It's fucking good.
Well, mate, when we were together, we were saying there's no way he didn't lose a bet for that to happen.
Yeah.
Like that's not on his own accord. There's no way.
Again, for those
No,
listening who
he's
are
a second
unaware,
rower.
he had a like a crew cut, like shaved head, just with the old muffin top on top. But he had Queensland Reds written, transcribed across the whole circumference of his head. Circumference, I don't know, whatever. But
we had one of the boys dye his hair borough for near at the back of his head last year, and that was his choice entirely. So, I mean, it could have definitely been Blythe's choice there.
Very good. And rounding out the fantasy points, I think you said McDermott 43, but then special mention, Pataya 29 points in 40 minutes. So he was looking the goods, and they surely could have used him in the second half. But
he was tired after playing 80 minutes in my match as well.
Yes, that's right. Nelson's team has a player that they call Geordie Pataya. Definitely about as good as Geordie Pataya is relative to the team, the contribution to the team. But what I really wish we did do was, if we could have been bothered, was take the fantasy stats for Nelson's game this weekend. But apart from the missed tackle, I think, look, Nelson would have got a good score, let's be honest. But apart from a few missed tackles, if only there was extra points for being bumped off, because whilst Nelson will tell you it's been a while, he did cop a big bump off. And look,
from Nick Frost's brother, to be honest, first grade Randwick player, and he definitely bumped me. I watched the video, and I'm scarred seeing it. So I actually injured him later in the game, though, so we'll call it even.
Sure you did, mate. Well, we might have to make a GIF of that if we can, and just like speed replay that and get that.
The game's been lost on the interweb.
Harry, can you please get some footage, mate? This might be the one time I follow through on something that we say on the pod.
We can use that into the intro for every single vlog from now on.
That sounds like a plan to me. But very good. All right. Well, look, that was the Reds and the Brumbies game. And yeah, I think it certainly did justice to a Super Rugby AU final. It was a pity we didn't have a fantasy match for it, but I think it was more fun. I think, as Harry said earlier in the season, it was amazing we were able to figure out a way to continue to play fantasy through all this. We certainly spent a good week trying to running all the variations as to how we could actually play across two different rugby competitions happening at the same time. And I was really glad that it worked out. And we know some of our fans and listeners also played along at home, so and had a good time. Yes, I guess unless there's any further remarks, we're going to say a big thank you again to the 2020 fantasy champ, Christian Nabung, the better Nabung, for joining us.
Thanks for the pod as well. I think you guys don't get the plaudits you deserve sometimes. So cheers, boys.
Oh, look at that! That's what makes it all worthwhile, really.
Big fan,
Well, look, now you'll get your name up on the pod caps, which I think go in all the show notes, or at least they're
in everyone. So
very good, and hopefully many more. I think Nabung comes in with 10, so just got to make another 10 appearances to usurp him in that as well. And we'll see if we can.
Shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, look, that I guess before I wrap up, finally, it's just look, we may do another pod in the coming weeks. One thing we were going to do for dessert but didn't get around to today was there was a really great comparison from friend of the pod, Rugbycology @Rugbycology on Twitter, who did a really interesting stats comparison between Super Rugby AU and Super Rugby Aotearoa. We didn't really have time to deep dive into that and go through it. It's pretty comprehensive. You can find that on his Twitter. But look, we might do a pod next week or in the next few weeks with some insight around that, and also just the plans going forward with draft rugby and the continual development of it, and also any news with the South African competition coming up. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, any final thoughts, gents?
Been another good year, mate. I'm excited to see some international footy now, and I'm just crossing my fingers that the development in confidence of all the Aussie players means that they're up to competing with the All Blacks. I've never got my hopes too high these days after so many years of losing to them, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, look, I think to round it out, for Aussie rugby, for draft rugby, I think this year's been a good stepping stone moving forward. It was awesome that we could offer what we offered through this period of time with no one else doing anything similar. And it's created a really good base for us next year at draft rugby. And I think, we're going to get pay from this year for Super Rugby AU as well. It may not necessarily come those first couple games in the Bledisloe, but I think this season's probably given some of those young players even more confidence, given us a real solid base to move forward, and lots of positive changes are happening in Aussie rugby at the moment. So I think, it's been a great stepping stone this season.
For sure. I'd echo Nels there as well. I think Super Rugby AU has been absolutely awesome. I think it's been really easy for people to follow as well. So with the standard conference system, people don't know what's going on, apart from diehard fans like us. But really great competition. Awesome to see young guys getting a genuine crack, and good to see an Aussie winner at the end of the day as well, which we often don't get.
Exactly.
How good. And look, final thoughts are, if we're not putting up a pod every week and you're just longing for hearing Harry and Nelson just have a go at each other, look, maybe they'll put up some footage or become Twitch streamers playing the latest rugby game on Xbox or whatever. It's always good value. Somehow they actually prefer playing together on the same team though. But look, we'll see if we can what kind of content we can come up with.
For anyone out there that hasn't got the game, it's not that amazing playing people, because there's things that are frustrating, but playing together, it's pretty awesome.
Definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do us. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you again in the next one. Cheers.
Catch ya.